You're listening to The Gary Harris Show on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa.
Tuscaloosa is the place to be. Visit us big and discover why so many are switching to BMW. BMW of Tuscaloosa. Take your dreams for a drive.
The Gary Harris Show. UCM hosts Tider Insider TV, Crimson Tide Kickoff, play-by-play for Alabama sports, and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome into the Gary Harris Show for this Monday, November 18, 2024. I'm your host, Gary Harris. That's right. We're already closing in on December. Thanksgiving is next week. My gosh, man. It's just crazy. Christmas is going to be here in a month, and it's just this football season has flown by, but it's not over yet. Welcome into the program. As I said, I'm Gary Harris. I got my main man, Chase Brumfield. He is manning the controls, taking your phone calls on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline at 205-342-9904. That's 205-342-9904. We're with you here the next couple of hours talking sports and more on the Big Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM WTBC. Got a good show on tap, and I'll tell you all about it in just a second. First, though, I do need to let you know this hour of the Gary Harris Show brought to you, as always, by Alabama Credit Union. Member-owned and not-for-profit, it really is just a better way of banking. Find out more at alabamacu.com. Alabama Credit Union, loans for real life. Some rules and restrictions do apply. See if you're eligible for membership. Then join today and feel good about your money. And put a little extra change in your pocket. All right, the Monday lineup, Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com. Tider Insider TV coming up at 9:30 for his weekly visit. And Casey Smith on golf at 10:30. Plus, we'll have the Kalen DeBoer press conference from Saturday evening after Alabama dispatched the Mercer 52-7 at Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium to move to 8-2 on the season. Alabama up to number 7 in the AP poll this week. And, of course, the latest college football playoff rankings come out tomorrow evening, but Alabama looking good. And in fact, with what happened Saturday with Tennessee losing to Georgia and Alabama winning, a lot could still happen. It's first of all, Alabama has to win its last two games at Oklahoma and at home against Auburn. But it looks pretty good now if Alabama can do that to make it to the SEC championship game. That's right. I mean, Alabama is back in contention for Atlanta. And, of course, Bama has to win its last two games. And, the tiebreaker situation, has to play out. But if Alabama wins those last two games, it looks like if, there's a bunch of two-loss teams that Alabama right now is in position to go based on the tiebreaker. So Tide, of course, is focused on taking care of its business, but it could still wind up playing for a 31st SEC championship in a few weeks over in Atlanta at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. All right, in addition to Alabama taking care of Mercer on Saturday afternoon, 52-7, really a good game for a lot of reasons. They won handily, got to play a lot of people, all four quarterbacks, a lot of young guys. So it was a really productive game in a lot of different areas for Alabama. Now the page is turned to these last two games, and Oklahoma and Norman on Saturday evening is not going to be a pushover. It is going to be a tough football game. I know Oklahoma's record is not what they would like it to be, and they've been up and down, but that is still a team that has a lot of pride, a lot of tradition, and Alabama gives them an opportunity to really make their season if they can get a win. So Alabama's going to have to be on full tilt as far as getting ready to play that game against Oklahoma. Also, since we last spoke to you on Friday morning, the Alabama men's basketball team lost at Purdue. And Alabama preseason number 2, but has not looked like the preseason number 2 team. And I know we're just 4 games in, but after a blowout win over UNC Asheville. They had a single-digit win at home over Arkansas State, a single-digit win at home over McNeese, and then went to West Lafayette, Indiana on Friday night and got beat by Purdue to move to 3-1 on the season. But a work in progress, obviously, but still disappointing that team has not played better so far this season. The Alabama women's basketball team won yesterday at ULM, University of Louisiana Monroe, and they're off to a fast start, looking really, really good. The volleyball team lost to Texas, but that's okay, because Texas, as we know, is a national championship caliber program, and Alabama is still trying to kind of get that program going, but they set a record for attendance. They packed out Foster Auditorium on Sunday afternoon. I think it was like 3,800 fans, and that's a major step in the right direction for Richenda Reed, the head coach, and her program. They lost in 3 sets, but they did come close to winning the second set. And I know you say, well, but that's, again, you're talking about one of the best programs in the country in Texas. So there's progress being made with Alabama women's volleyball. And even though they didn't win, what an atmosphere, what a spectacle. Foster Auditorium is a fun place to watch a ball game. I will tell you that. And when it was packed like it was yesterday, really, really neat. All right, Sunday in the NFL. Of course, Bama in the NFL is always a big thing. I'll run down some of the top Tide performances in a little bit. But the big news is the Chiefs are unbeaten no more. They had kind of been living on borrowed time. Give them credit for getting to 9-0 and finding a different way to win games. But they got upended yesterday in Buffalo by a really good Bills team that only has 2 losses this season. Also on Sunday, the Ravens lose at the Steelers, and that's become a familiar script. Baltimore has now won 8 of the last 9 against, or Pittsburgh has won 8 of the last 9 against Baltimore. And that is, if you're a Ravens fan, very, very frustrating. What was very frustrating for me was Derrick Henry, just 13 carries for 65 yards. He didn't have a touchdown. 13 carries? Are you kidding me? And at the end of the game, when the Ravens scored a touchdown and had a 2-point opportunity on the 2-point conversion, try to tie the game, Derrick Henry's not even in the game? Are you kidding? What are you doing, Todd Monken, offensive coordinator? What are you doing, John Harbaugh, head coach? Give me a break. Give me a break. But a lot of sports stories making news. We're going to touch on all of them. It is 10 minutes after the hour of 9 o'clock. We've got some phone calls to get to. So let's go ahead and start off with Pat. And we've also got Corey on hold as well. But let's lead off with Pat this morning as we go ahead and take some phone calls on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline at 205-342-9904. Good morning, Pat.
Hey, good morning, Gary. Hey, you were just talking about possibility of Bama going to Atlanta. Why would Bama go over Tennessee that we lost to head-to-head, Tennessee with 2 losses? And
well, didn't Tennessee lose to Georgia? Why would Georgia go over Tennessee? When you have multiple teams and finish with multiple teams with 2 losses, then you can't do the head-to-head. Because Georgia beat Tennessee. So why wouldn't they go? I mean, it's like, well, what they go then is they go to best record among your opponents in the SEC. If there's more than more than two, let's say there's a 1-loss team, Texas or Texas A&M. Now they can both lose this coming week, but let's say there's one 1-loss team, and that's either the Texas A&M winner, and they're in, and then there's a bunch of 2-loss teams, and the way they would do that, they would look at the entire record, and right now, as long as Missouri beats either Mississippi State or Arkansas, then Alabama's aggregate record as far as their opponent's winning percentage would be the highest among those 2-loss teams. So Alabama would go.
Okay, I was just curious about that because Ole Miss has got a big game this weekend with Florida that's a must-win. And
Ole Miss could be another 2-loss team. And it's so if you could have 4 or 5 2-loss teams potentially. And all bidding for Atlanta. So the head-to-head goes out the window, and it goes into a formula. And from what I understand, the formula would be the highest winning percentage among your SEC opponents in Alabama is in line to have that. Now, again, Alabama's going to win 2 games. Alabama's got to beat Oklahoma. They got to beat Auburn. As you said, Ole Miss to get the 2 wins has got to beat Florida and Mississippi State. And Georgia's done. Georgia's already done with their conference schedule. They're 6-2. And so they're a 2-loss team. And you've got right now A&M and Texas with just 1 loss. But one of those teams is guaranteed a second loss because they play each other. So,
but
Alabama's in position.
You got to look at that Texas has already lost to Georgia, and Georgia beat Tennessee. We lost to Tennessee. I mean, it's crazy that
it is.
Think about this thing that really good teams. We really need to do away with the SEC championship. I know everybody wants to fuss at me when I say that, but we could potentially have 4 teams, at least 4 teams in the playoffs without an SEC championship.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about that in regards to the unintended consequence of the championship game. The problem is it makes so much money. And let's just tell it like it is, man. Money is important. That's why they're doing all this to begin with.
I understand.
And so, it is what it is.
Does the loser of the SEC championship, are they sitting in some Mickey Mouse bowl somewhere? Because regardless whether it's Alabama or whether it's Texas or whoever it is. Now,
let's run it down. Obviously, the winner is in with a top 4 seed and a bye. The loser, you would like to think, if let's say there's 4 2-loss teams, and one of those 2-loss teams makes it to Atlanta and loses the game, you would like to think that wouldn't be held against them because, listen, they made it to Atlanta. They had to play the extra game. But there would be a lot of people saying, hey, this 3-loss team shouldn't go ahead of these 2-loss teams. So I can't answer that because we haven't been through that scenario yet. It would be unfortunate, I think, that if you earned a spot in your conference championship game and lost that game, then that loss cost you a spot in the playoff, and a team that got to sit at home and not play in that game went ahead of you. I think that would be unfortunate. Could it happen? I guess it could happen, but we don't know because we haven't been through the scenario yet.
All right. Hey, one thing before you let me go, get Gary to talk about where we go for potentially the second running back in this class. And it looks like the guy came in from Florida. I hadn't heard anything about the recruiting this past weekend. That they were high on as far as a receiver goes. But I know they do want another receiver in this class, and they do want another running back in this class. And with Turbo leaving, that it opens a lot of spots.
It does, and we'll run down recruiting with Rodney. Of course, Alabama's lost 3.
We'll be
ESPN 300 players in the last week: Caleb Cunningham, Dawson Merritt, and Anthony Turbo Rogers. And we'll cover that all with Rodney. We sure will, Pat.
All right, thanks, buddy. Have a great day.
Thank you, buddy. All right, it's 9:16. We need to get the timeout. We come back on the other side. We got Corey and we got Philip to get to on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline. You're welcome in as well. 205-342-9904. We'll be right back after this.
On the Tuscaloosa Thread.
Good morning. My name's Mary Kay, live from the Town Square Media Newsroom. And Alabamians might be breaking out their winter coats later this week as the coldest temperatures of the season will arrive. Saturday morning might be the coldest morning, and a freeze is likely for portions of North and Central Alabama. And Tuesday, the Storm Prediction Center has most of Alabama under a marginal risk for damaging winds. And after the big win Saturday, the Crimson Tide football program continues to rise in the polls, keeping their dream of making the SEC championship alive. They hit the road to Oklahoma with a 6:30 kickoff this Saturday.
As much as Innisfree has evolved, it will always be that place to escape and have a good time. Whether it's for a game day weekend, to reminisce on college days, or to create new memories, if you're looking for a good time, there's only one thing to do. Head to the Free at 1925 University Boulevard. And don't forget about the Lucky Lunch Meat and 3 special. Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. until 2 p.m. Get a meat and 3 vegetables for just $8.49. Or for a lighter appetite, try the Lucky Lunch soup, salad, or sandwich combo. I'll see you at the Free. Tuscaloosa's Old Colony Golf Course is an 18-hole championship layout designed by 1976 U.S. Open champion Jerry Pate. Director of Golf John Gray and Fitting Specialist Bob Montgomery are PGA certified. Mike Shivitz is the head professional and director of the Tuscaloosa Junior Golf Program. Call today to secure a tee time.
Renovation. Experience the wow factor. Contact Shoot Masonry and Specialties at 205-887-3807 today and unleash your home's full potential.
Life doesn't wait for when your finances are in perfect order. It just happens. But no matter what surprises come your way, Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgages, and auto loans. They offer an easy application process and fast decisions so you can stay focused on feeling good about whatever life brings your way. Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans.
Handled.
Yeah, you do. Get Black Friday savings now with free delivery and financing on select appliances this holiday at the Home Depot. Offer valid November 6th through December 4th. U.S. only. See store online for details.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The sky partly to mostly sunny today, the high 75. Clouds move in tonight, the low 62. Tomorrow, cloudy, rain becoming widespread, the high 68. And for Thursday, the sky becoming partially sunny, the high 66. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3320 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 66 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
You're listening to The Gary Harris Show. On your home for Alabama sports, Tide 100.9, and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, 9:20. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show. The phone lines are full, so we're going to try to get to everybody in this segment. We've got Corey, Phillip, and Tom in that order. Corey and Trussville. Hey, good morning, Corey. How are you?
Hey, Gary. How you doing this morning?
Doing great, man.
Do you think this Oklahoma game is considered a trap game because of the unfamiliar location and just Alabama doesn't play Oklahoma hardly ever?
I don't consider it a trap game because I think of the fact that Oklahoma has the tradition that it has. Even though they're not great this year, it's Oklahoma. I think Alabama understands going to Norman to play that team is not going to be an easy game. So if it's a trap game, that's on Alabama. If you're not ready to play this one with all that is at stake and they could slip up on you, then that's a problem. So I wouldn't call it a trap game. I would call it a tough game because of the fact of what you just said. Alabama hasn't been out there in 22 years. They're a great tradition-laden program, much like Alabama. And even though they don't have the record they would like to have, they're a capable football team. Defensively, they're good. Offensively, it's been a struggle, but I think they've gotten better the last couple of weeks. So I think Alabama understands that it's a tough football game. It's not one that you just fly out to Norman, Oklahoma on Friday afternoon and wake up on Saturday and play on Saturday night and just go out there and show up and get the win. You're going to have to play, and you're going to have to play well. So I wouldn't call it a trap game. I would call it a tough game and a potentially a game that is a loss if you don't play well. That's the way I would address that.
Yeah, I would agree because Oklahoma does still have really good players and will have to come ready to play. The thing about the SEC championship game is I understand what everybody's saying about do we want to play or not want to play, but Alabama really needs to get that 4 seed because it would help not playing that extra game in the.
Well, let me tell you this, Corey. The players want to play. I understand what the fans are saying about, you could go there, you get a third loss, you this and that. But I just know how players are and the coaches. They want to be in Atlanta to represent the Crimson Tide in the SEC championship game and have an opportunity to win a 31st conference title in the SEC, which is more than double what anybody else has got in the league. So they want to be there and play. And you're right. I mean, we're all looking at it. Well, what if they lose? Well, what if they win? If they win, they're the SEC champions, and they get a top 4 seed and a bye. So you're absolutely right. There would be a lot to play for in that game. And I promise you, Alabama's not afraid of anybody in this league. If they get an opportunity to play over there, whether it's against Texas or whether it's against Georgia again or whomever it might be, if they get an opportunity, they want to go play in that game. So I'm with you on that. But as Pat said, he is also correct that if you do go over there at 10-2 and you lose that game and you're 10-3, would that cost you a spot in the playoffs? I don't know. I'd like to think that it wouldn't. I'd like to think you'd be rewarded for making it to that game, but it could. And then if you did lose that game, you have already played that game, then you'd have to turn around and play again. So, we'll see. But I guarantee if Alabama can win these next two and get an opportunity to go to Atlanta to play for an SEC championship, they'll look forward to it. Hey, Corey, thank you so much. I got to keep it moving. I got other calls to get to. Let's talk to Philip. Good morning, Philip.
Oh, yeah, Gary, absolutely. Alabama wants to go to the SEC championship game and win that game and get that bye. Yeah, man, that's a no-brainer to me. A no-brainer. But anyway, Gary, has the Alabama-Auburn kickoff time been set yet? Will that be today?
It has not, unless it's come out this morning and I didn't see it yet. Somebody's out there, but as of yesterday, it had not been set. So they're waiting to see how they want to do it with the TV.
Right. Well, I think Alabama. One good thing about this weekend, I don't think it's going to be quite as cold as I was fearing. I think it's just
no, not at all. The forecast, I checked it last night. It has improved considerably. Back when it was about a 10-day forecast, they were talking about temperatures in the high 30s and very windy for the game. And then I saw last night, I guess you saw the same thing, Philip. They were talking about the highs being in the 60s. I think temperatures in the 50s for the game with low wind. So. Yeah, a lot better.
Huge break on that. But, Gary, I feel like one thing that Coach Moore has done is, and I know it's early. They got 8 quarters of hard football left, and these next 2 games are going to be hard. But one of the things I think the Coach Moore has done, and Tom mentioned this when we went from Barry, I think Coach Moore has done a fantastic job of cutting down and reducing clutter in his first year. I think this is things over there just seem to be kind of rocking along. You don't hear a whole lot, even though, he's got free access to the coaches, it seems like, and everybody does a lot of, talking to the media, it seems like. But the clutter aspect to me has been really reduced, and I want to tip my hat to Coach DeMoore.
Yeah, I think everything right now is going smoothly, like you said. And, a couple of losses that, in games, they'd probably like to have them back, but that's everything, I mean, Alabama would love to, I think, have a chance to play that Vanderbilt game again and that Tennessee game again. I don't think that Alabama feels like that either one of those teams are better. But that's football, and as I've said, you can't do anything about that, but you can do something about what you got on tap. And if you win these next 2 games, you're going to be in good shape. So it's all it's all worked out to get to this point. And if Alabama wins these next 2, they're in position to, I think, play for a national championship.
No doubt about it. And what's not to like?
That's right. I agree. All right. Thank you, Philip.
Thank you, Gary.
All right. Let's get to Tom before we have to hit the break. Hey, good morning, Tom.
Hey, Gary, what were you and Phil talking about the TV? What's up for debate about TV? What game was that?
Iron Bowl. Philip asked if the time for the Iron Bowl had been set yet, and I said it has not been. TV will make that decision, and they haven't announced it yet.
Okay, thank you. Let me ask you something, Gary, and I think I know your answer to this already. But I tell you what, it still means something to me and exciting to me that we got a shot at winning another Southeastern Conference championship. I think that would be great. And if we played Texas, think about this. If Alabama and Texas meet in Atlanta the first year that Texas is in the conference, that's a freaking showdown from all get out, is it not?
Sure it is. Of course it is. It's it would be huge, and it'd be a great game with a lot of pomp and circumstance and an SEC championship on the line. So you're right. Philip's right. I feel the same way. If Alabama gets an opportunity, whether it's Texas or Georgia or Ole Miss or whoever it might be, it could still, I guess, potentially beat Tennessee even, if some other people lose. So whoever it is, if Alabama gets a chance to win that 31st SEC title, they're going to be excited about it. I promise you that. And it does mean for the winner of that game that you get to bye, you get to be a top 4 seed, and you get to be the SEC championship. So, yeah, they'll be excited. If they get an opportunity, Alabama will be excited about playing in that game. I promise you that.
I agree. And let me ask you this. Rodney's Sunday notes, he wasn't clear about the path Alabama has to get to the championship game, Southeastern Conference. But is it true that if we win out, we're in? Is that it?
You talking about for the championship game?
Southeastern Conference championship game in Atlanta, Georgia. Let me get it all out there.
No, it's not true. They can't just win out. It's still a formula that has to be. But if Alabama wins out, from what I understand, they would be in the best position to be one of the two teams based on Missouri. If Missouri were to split with Mississippi State and Arkansas, in other words, just win one of those two games, and then, of course, obviously they won them both. But if Alabama is if there's a bunch of two-loss teams, from what I have been able to gather, Alabama then would have their opponents would have the highest winning percentage in the SEC, and they would go. So, yeah, if they went out there, they have the inside track. But if Missouri were to lose both those games, and then from what I understand, Georgia opponents would have a higher winning percentage, and they would go ahead of Alabama. So it's not a done deal that if they win those two games, but if they win them, they're in pretty good shape, it looks like.
Let me ask you this. I think the committee, football playoff committee, is looking at Alabama going, they've got more top 25 wins than anybody else. And that's what keeps moving us up in the poll, in the playoff poll. Do you agree with that?
Well, we'll see if they move up tomorrow night. I mean, they're up in the AP poll to 7, but they're still kind of behind in the playoff poll. We'll see tomorrow night if they move up, and what you're talking about happens. So right now, they're still, kind of the back of the line. So we'll see if they take a step tomorrow night, because I do think those wins matter. But so far, as far as the playoff poll is concerned, strength of schedule has not been a major factor. If you look at the teams they've got at the top, I mean, they've taken it more based on record.
Each Tuesday night, live from Walk On Sports Bistro for Hillcrest Huddle. That's Brent Jones each week as the Hillcrest Patriots march towards the playoffs.
If you haven't already, you've got to try Tuscaloosa's unique breakfast, brunch, and lunch concept. Brick and Spoon, downtown Tuscaloosa at Timerson Square. It's fresh food with a Cajun flair featuring a full bar with build-your-own Bloody Marys and mimosas. Open daily, 7 a.m. until 2 p.m. Available for after-hours events, rehearsal dinners, receptions, and birthdays. They offer brunch and lunch catering. Call Brick and Spoon at 205-345-5551 for more information.
Los Tarascos has been serving Mexican favorites like burritos, fajitas, and quesadillas since 1999. Their new location is at 4100 Owen Parkway in Northport. And of course, you can find Los Tarascos in Tuscaloosa at 110 Skyland Boulevard. The bar areas feature big screen television so you can enjoy your favorite sporting events. Los Tarascos features daily happy hour specials. And for the best Mexican cuisine in West Alabama, remember, the name is Los Tarascos with locations in Tuscaloosa and Northport. Since 2011, Billy's Sports Grill, located on Main Avenue in historic downtown Northport, has been serving their legendary signature chicken sandwich, award-winning wings, and handcrafted cocktails. Billy's is also the spot to watch all your favorite sporting events with big screen, high-definition televisions, both dining rooms, at the bar.
At RexMD.com, we've made the process fast, easy, and affordable. Visit RexMD.com right now to get started. That's REXMD.com.
Follow Tide 100.9 on Facebook today to watch our live shows, read the great articles, and interact with Bama fans today.
All right, 9:34. Welcome back to the Gary Harris Show. And it's time for Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com, Tider Insider TV, for his Monday Alabama rundown. Good morning, Rodney. How are you?
Good morning, Gary. How's it going?
Going well. A lot to cover this morning, so let's dive right in. Let's start with what we saw on Saturday. Alabama took care of business 52-7 over Mercer. I think the best thing about the game was they got to play a lot of people, all four quarterbacks. Went way down on the depth chart and, still won the game handily, which of course allowed them to be in that position to play a lot of guys. But no major injuries. It seemed like it was best case scenario for the Tide on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, kind of like I said last week, I think on your segment on Tider Insider TV, we talked about this. You know, the question heading into this game for me was, you know, obviously we didn't think Mercer would present a huge challenge in terms of upsetting Alabama by any means. But, you know, the question was, would Alabama play to the opponent or to the standard? And I think, you know, it wasn't a flawless performance by any means, but I think there were certainly some encouraging things. Alabama went out and took care of business, jumped out to a 31-7 halftime lead. So they were in command from the start. And I think that's the thing you want to see. And also, I think in a lot of times when we see these games, we saw them in the Nick Saban era when they would play these types of games when, you know, they didn't play clean. But I thought when you look at this game, they forced 3 turnovers. They did not turn the ball over. So I think they kind of met the standard in a lot of ways in this game. And that was, you know, certainly encouraging to see. And, you know, maybe we'll find out more, you know, this Saturday. But maybe Alabama's peaking at the right time.
2 games left, and, you know, it looks like Alabama now is in really good shape, potentially to make it to Atlanta for the SEC championship game if they win these last 2, which still need Missouri to win one of its last 2. And, you know, and that's, from what I see, is a path to Atlanta. But prior to that, your focus has to be on these next 2 games. And I've already had a question this morning as to whether or not Oklahoma's a trap game. And I said, if it's a trap game, then that's on Alabama, because I don't see any way in the world it should be a trap game. Oklahoma's good enough playing in Norman on Saturday night, if you don't play well, to beat you. You're talking about a tradition-laden program. Alabama hasn't been out there in 22 years, so I don't see it as a trap game, Rodney. I just see it as a game where if you don't play well, you could go out there and get beat on Saturday night.
Well, I think this team is, you know, should be very experienced in that. You know, you saw what happened after the Georgia game. They didn't play extremely well, and they lost to Vanderbilt. So, no, I don't really see this as a trap game per se. I mean, I think, you know, when you look at college football right now, it's just what you said. All of these teams are very capable of beating the other if you don't play at your best. So, I think that's kind of the mindset that this team has to have. And you know, again, we won't know until Saturday, obviously, but you kind of get the feel, we kind of get the sense that this team is, as we've gone along, has matured quite a bit. And I would expect them to go in with the right mindset at Oklahoma. But I'm like you, Gary. I mean, I look at Oklahoma, I look at their defense. I think their defense is really, really good against the run. Maybe, you know, it's not quite as good against the pass, but it's a really solid defense. Venables does a great job coaching that side of the ball. They're always going to be really good on defense. You know, it's on the road. It's a hostile environment. You know it's going to be. It's a night game. This is an opportunity for Oklahoma, I think, to kind of make amends for some of the things that haven't gone well this year. So I think Alabama's got a really big challenge. Even though Oklahoma's 5-5, they're a capable football team.
All right. And then, of course, if you win that game, you've got the Iron Bowl a week from Saturday in Tuscaloosa. If Alabama wins those 2 games and is in line to get to the SEC championship game, there's a lot of talk, and I've already heard it this morning on my show, about whether it's a good thing to go. Ronnie, my thought process is, and I understand where fans are coming from. If you're 10-2 and you go over there and you lose the game, you're 10-3, would that loss then keep you out of the playoff and one of the 10-2 teams that were sitting at home go ahead of you? But I don't think that you can look at it like that. I think, first of all, Alabama is the pride of the Southeastern Conference. This would be an opportunity to win a 31st SEC title. It'd be an opportunity to get a top 4 seed and a bye. The players and the coaches, Rodney, I guarantee you they would love to get to Atlanta to play in that game. It is a great game with a lot of history and tradition. So I think that if the Alabama can win these next 2, they would gladly go represent the SEC in Atlanta with a chance to win a championship and understanding what's on the line.
Yeah, I kind of see it both ways. I mean, I can understand that if you're 10-2, you know, you've got a playoff spot locked up. And I'm not saying Alabama would, but I do believe if Alabama wins these next 2 games, they have a spot locked up in the playoffs. So with that said, you know, not having to go to Atlanta, not having to play that game, I can see the benefit of that. You do get the off week there. That's kind of like a bye. Then again, I can see also you go to Atlanta, you play a team, maybe you play Texas. What a great matchup that would be. Tremendous matchup for the SEC. Not only the SEC, but all of college football. I think it would be a tremendous matchup. You get a chance to go to the SEC championship game, like you said, win another SEC title, against potentially a team like Texas. And again, if they win, I would hope that it would be Texas. I certainly wouldn't necessarily want a rematch against Georgia at this point. But if you got that opportunity to play Texas, you win that game. I think it's certainly a confidence builder as you start to head into the playoffs. You get the bye week, as you said. You get a higher seeding. So, there's a lot of pluses on both sides to me. So whatever happens, Alabama just needs to be ready and prepared for that opportunity.
You're right. It is a question that we really don't know the answer to. Again, if you have a 2-loss team in Atlanta that doesn't win, that'll be a third loss. You would like to think that the committee would not hold that opportunity against them, but you'd have a lot of 2-loss teams sitting at home saying that we should go ahead of a 3-loss team. So it's new territory. This is an unintended consequence of these championship games, but it is what it is. And this whole process this year is something new. Back to the play on the field. When you look ahead to the Oklahoma game, defensively, they're pretty good. Offensively, they've been a train wreck most of the season. One of the worst offenses in Oklahoma history statistically. But they have, I think, the last couple of games, Rodney, found a little something, and I think are playing better on offense. What are the keys in your mind for Alabama to go out there and win that game on Saturday night?
Yeah, Jackson Arnold, I think he's back. He's playing. This guy was highly touted. He's a very talented kid. And actually early in the season, watching him, I felt for him. He was really struggling. I remember the Tennessee game when he really struggled. But he's a talented kid. I don't think you need to undersell him. I know they have the freshman quarterback that's a really, really good runner, and he came in and did some good things for them a few weeks. But, I think you just have to play good, sound defense. Again, I think that's where it's going to start on the road. And I think on the flip side of that, really, Alabama has to play clean. When you're on the road especially, you have to play clean. And they've done that the last 3 weeks. They forced 9 turnovers. They've committed none. So I think that's really big and been a key to their success. And I think that has to continue, as you go to Norman, is you have to play clean football. And if they do that, then I think Alabama's in a great position in this game.
Yeah, they think so high of Arnold that they let Dylan Gabriel go to Oregon, Rodney. So
I'm not sure that was a good decision, but it was. He look. Jackson Arnold's an extraordinarily talented kid. I think a lot of people considered him the number 1 quarterback in the high school when he came out. And again, like you said, if a guy like that, he gets into a rhythm, starts gaining confidence. This is a team that's beaten down. And like you said earlier, this is a proud Oklahoma. They've got as much pride in their program, their history, as Alabama has in theirs. And this is a program with a lot of really good players. And, Venables has been there before. He's coached in a lot of these big games. So, and they've got a bye week. So you never really know how a team responds after that.
That's right. All right. I want to talk to you a little bit about recruiting. 3 ESPN top 300 players that were committed to Alabama have decommitted in the last week. Caleb Cunningham, the wide receiver at Ole Miss, Dawson Merritt, the linebacker to Nebraska, and then yesterday Anthony Turbo Rogers, the running back, decommitted and is expected, I think, maybe to choose Ohio State. This is the new landscape of recruiting. Still, you know how Alabama fans are, and a lot of them are panicking. What's going on? So I'll ask you, what's going on?
No, I think you really just have to let it play out and see. But, with Caleb Cunningham, we talked about it from the time he committed to Alabama. We talked about it on this show right here. We said, look, he's a guy that's highly recruited. He's from the state of Mississippi. there's going to be an ongoing battle for him all the way to the end. I know there was a lot of people that said, no, he's firm. But we've experienced this many times. You have, Gary, you've covered it. You've followed recruiting for many, many years. You've seen how it is, especially in Mississippi. You knew that Ole Miss and Mississippi State were going to be relentless down the stretch. And that's really what's happened. So it's not a surprise about Caleb Cunningham, at least not to me, that he eventually flipped. Then you've got, you mentioned Dawson Merritt. That's an interesting situation, too, because it was a real battle between Alabama and Nebraska when he did pick Alabama back in the summer. He's from Kansas City area. Its location is for them is really good at Nebraska. And I also think, Gary, that when you look at him, and I don't know what kind of NIL deal Nebraska might have thrown at him if they threw a major deal at him at all. But what I will say is this. I do think that what Nebraska probably used is said, look, Alabama's got Quay Russaw. They've got Pierre. They've got 2 freshmen, Noah Carter and Ja'Shawn Ross. They've got a guy committed that's ranked higher than you, Justin Hill out of Cincinnati. They've got a stacked young outside linebackers group. And you've got a chance to come here and step in and possibly start right away. So I think that probably played into it to some extent, as well as the other factors. And that's part of recruiting. That's what it is. I don't think that losing Dawson Merritt, I think he's a really good player. I'd love to have him, but you're not going to get them all. And I think Alabama has a good young room as it is. As far as Anthony Rogers is concerned, again, I'm not trying to make excuses. I look at him as a utility player. He's a good player. He's not, a guy that I would say, this is my opinion. I don't know what Alabama thinks. But I'm not sitting here saying, okay, Alabama's lost a difference maker. Again, all due respect, he's a really good player. But I think you can replace a guy like him, in your commit list. I do think this, however. I do think when you look at a guy like Michael Carroll, originally from Pennsylvania, at IMG Academy right now, he visited Colorado over the weekend. That guy is a top-notch offensive line prospect. You don't want to lose him. Right. It's like you really didn't want to lose Caleb Cunningham. That's a huge loss. So, hopefully Alabama can hang on to what they've got. They're in a position to potentially, it sounds like they're going to flip Ivan Taylor. I think he's one of the best safeties in this class. He's committed to Michigan. They flip him. That's a big flip. They've already flipped Marshall Pritchett, who I think is an outstanding tight end prospect. They flipped the Cavante Henry kid, who's the number 1 JUCO edge player in the country. That's another guy we didn't mention, but they flipped him. And they're potentially going to flip a running back. They could flip a wide receiver, and they could bring in more guys. And I think the portal's going to be really productive for them. So I don't think there's any reason to panic. In short, that would be my answer to your question.
Yeah, and to follow up on the running backs, one thing you have to look at, too, when you watch that game Saturday, and you saw Richard Young, and you saw Daniel Hill, and you saw Kevin Riley. Alabama, if they can just bring, and Jam Miller may be gone, but Haynes is due to come back as well. They're in pretty good shape already with what they have on the roster at running back, Rodney.
Yeah, I think it would be great if you could find a guy that you felt like was a guy that could potentially be a difference maker, a really good player for you. I know they brought in the Jace Clarizio kid out of East Lansing this past weekend. He's committed to Michigan State. He's a 5'10", 190 guy. He's a really explosive, dynamic player. But I think, I like the kid that's committed to USC, Harry Dalton, who might come for the Alabama-Auburn game. He's a bigger running back. He's 5'10", about 205, runs with some power, and, he's got a lot of tools. Those are 2 guys to watch. And then obviously they brought in a receiver this weekend, Nashawn Montgomery, out of the Miami area, who's committed to Florida right now. But I know Alabama's been working him pretty hard. He's a good-looking player, and, there may be some other guys that they have on their radar as well.
Rodney Orr with us from TiderInsider.com talking Bama football. And I also want to talk a little Bama basketball with you. The Tide lost Friday night at Purdue. And It's one game, but they're in the starting a tough stretch with the schedule that I think is as tough as anybody as far as pre-conference that there is in the country. But I know the reaction on your board was fast and furious, and I do think there is some concern. You're the number 2 team in the country. You're coming off the Final Four. You won your opener handily, blow out over UNC Asheville, but you had a single-digit win over Arkansas State at home, a single-digit win over McNeese at home, and then you lose at Purdue. What's the takeaway from basketball as far as your posters? Are they in panic mode already, Rodney?
Well, I think the problem is that Alabama fans have a football mentality, and they expect to go undefeated. And I think a lot of fans watched the exhibition games. Alabama scored 98, 96. They scored, 110 in the opener?
Yeah,
and
110.
they thought, okay, Alabama's going to dominate everybody. We got this incredible roster, and they do. They do have an incredible roster. But, it's developing the chemistry over the course of a season. We saw how Alabama came together as a team last year at the very end after struggling, at the end of the regular season and didn't do well in the SEC tournament, and then they kind of came together at the right time. And I think that's part of what college basketball is. I mean, there's a lot of the competition's really good too. And you mentioned you go to Purdue, they don't lose many games there. And Alabama's still kind of developing a lot of these new players. They've got so many new players. So it's just a chemistry thing. But Alabama certainly has the talent, and I'll be surprised if Nate Oates doesn't get them to playing well at the right time.
I'm with you, Rod. I think that they're going to still be a really good team. You're right. It's they're still filling the roster out. They're still getting the playing rotation going. There's a lot going into getting this team. This is a team that's going to be built for March, not for November. But you certainly don't want to lose a bunch of games. That's for sure, too. All right, Rod, great stuff as always. And, of course, TiderInsider.com is rocking and rolling right now, full speed with basketball, with football, with other topics, and people can become a member. And the great thing about it, Rodney, is it's still just $48 a year, right?
Yeah, only $4 a month. That's all. But it's TiderInsider.com, and as you mentioned, $48 a year. You can get instant access right now with your credit card. If you prefer, there is an address there to send a check. That gives you our premium information. But also a part of that is our All Sports Forum. You mentioned that, Gary, our community there. It's really pretty incredible. The people that we have, the opinions and the insight that they provide, and it's sometimes great entertainment as well.
All right, great stuff, Rodney. Appreciate it, and we'll catch up with you again, and catch up with you tomorrow night on Tider Insider TV at 6:30. Thanks a lot. All right, we'll take the time out. We'll come back and wrap up this first hour. Get you ready for hour number 2 of the Gary Harris Show here on Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM WTBC.
Coming up on The Game with Ryan Fowler.
Coming up on the Monday edition of The Game, we'll talk to Drew DeArmond, we'll talk to Martin Houston, we'll talk to Barrett Sallee. We're going to do the good, the bad, and the ugly. Hopefully there's a lot of good. The good is sponsored by Daniel Moore. We'll start taking your phone calls at 2 right here on The Game on Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
The longest running sports program in
community. Come discover better living at First and Main. Visit firstandmaincondos.com or call 205-657-7465. Mention you heard about us on the radio and receive 1 month free rent.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The sky partly to mostly sunny today, the high 75. Clouds move in tonight, the low 62. Tomorrow, cloudy, rain becoming widespread, the high 68. For Thursday, the sky becoming partially sunny, the high 66. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 70 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Covering University of Alabama sports, as well as the national and local scene as well. The Gary Harris Show, only on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, 9:56. That's going to wrap it up for hour number 1 of the Gary Harris Show. Our thanks to Rodney Orr for joining us. Hour number 2 is on the way. Casey Smith on golf at 10:30 with some news on Live and the PGA Tour possibly coming together sooner rather than later. Also, we'll have Kalen DeBoer's Saturday evening press conference following the win over Mercer. More of your phone calls as well Hour number 2, the Gary Harris Show is on the way. Keep it dialed in at Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM, WTBC.
About Skyrizi today and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKY-RIZZI to learn more.
WTBC Tuscaloosa and W265CG Tuscaloosa, a Town Square media station. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app. From the Fox Sports Studios in Los Angeles, here's Martin Weiss.
The AP Top 25 College Football Poll, no changes after Saturday's action. Oregon, number 1, Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, and Indiana round out the remainder of the top 5. The sole undefeated team in the NFL, no more, as the Buffalo Bills beat Kansas City 30-21. Josh Allen with a 26-yard rushing touchdown makes it a 2-possession game with 2 minutes and 17 seconds left in that matchup. Steelers take total ownership of the AFC North top spot after they beat the Ravens 18-16. 49ers fall to last in the NFC West after the Seahawks best them 20-17. Chargers improved to 6-3 after beating Cincinnati 34-27. Justin Herbert, 2 touchdowns through the air, also led the team in rushing. Packers blocked the last-second field goal to beat the Bears 20-19, and the Cleveland Cavaliers remain undefeated after they beat the Hornets 128-114. Cleveland is 15-0 on the season. Darius Garland with a 25-point, 12-assist double-double. I'm Martin Weiss.
The Gary Harris Show. UCM host Tider Insider TV. Crimson Tide Kickoff. Play-by-play for Alabama sports and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show for this Monday, November 18th, 2024. Hour number 2 of the Gary Harris Show is on the air. I'm your host, Gary Harris. I got my main man, Chase Brumfeld, doing all the heavy lifting, taking your phone calls on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline at 205-342-9904. And we've got Casey Smith on golf coming up at 10:30. We're going to hear from Taylor DeBoer, his post-practice press conference from Saturday. And we're going to get to more of your phone calls in just a moment. In fact, we'll do that here in just a minute with Curtis. Hold tight, Curtis. We'll get to you. But I didn't want to bring Chase in because I didn't get to talk with him in the first hour and see what's happening with CB. Good morning, Chase. You doing all right?
Good morning, Gary. It's good to hear from you. I'm doing pretty well. Good game with Mercer. It was good to see all like the second strings and third strings in the game. I'm curious, though, with Georgia and how they played against, I'm losing my brain. Against Tennessee. That was a little shocking. I thought Tennessee would pull out the win, but now it kind of puts in this new ordain that, look, Tennessee, Ole Miss, Alabama, and Georgia, like, where do you put those teams for tomorrow? I'm curious.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. The playoff rankings will definitely be interesting tomorrow night to see if Bama moves up, the SEC moves up, or if it's still dominated by the Big Ten in the top 5. Alabama is up to 7 in both the AP poll and the coaches poll. So that's, maybe that's a forerunner to tomorrow night. But you're right. It's kind of convoluted right now in the SEC. Going to be interesting to see how it plays out. At the same time, I think if Alabama wins these next 2 games against Oklahoma and Auburn, the way it's looking, there's a very good chance that they will be in Atlanta playing for the SEC championship. Did you go to the game, Chase, or did you just have a Saturday off?
I just had a Saturday off.
Got you a little R&R and just watched a bunch of different games.
Yes, sir. Keeping up with all the good sports that's going on this weekend, or this past weekend.
All right, I hear you, brother. All right, let's jump out on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline and welcome in Curtis. Hey, Curtis, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's going on, Gary? Hey, can you hear me good?
Do what now?
No, I said, can you hear me? Because I'm driving right now.
Yeah, you're cutting in and out a little bit, but I think we got you. What's going on?
Hey, I just wanted to comment on, Alabama and the chances of them making the playoffs, with, going and playing in the SEC championship. Gary, there's only one way I see it. Let's say they go there and they play their hearts out and they wind up losing the game. The committee has to take into consideration that they played more games than those other 10-2 teams that are sitting, chilling, on that weekend. I mean, playing more games, I'm sorry. Now, let's say they get blown out and get, a beat down, then I can understand, putting one of those teams in over Alabama. But if you're playing more games, how can this be a question? You understand what I'm saying?
Well, it may not be. That's the thing about it, Curtis, is we just don't know. And we've been asked about it this morning already on the show. What will happen if Alabama goes and loses the SEC championship game? Well, it may not impact them at all. The committee may say, listen, they were 10-2. They won the right to be in that game where other teams did not. And even though they lost it, we're not going to hold that against them. What happened in a conference championship game that they had to play in and somebody else did not. So it may not be a factor. Now, if you go to that championship game and you lose it and you're 10-3 and you don't get in the playoff and a couple of SEC teams that were sitting at home at 10-2 do go, then I think you're going to have an outcry from people who say, well, why are we playing these championship games? If this is what's going to happen, is a team is going to be penalized for playing in it. And it isn't just the SEC championship game. It's all the other championship games as well. It'll be interesting to see how that impacts the playoff. There's no doubt about it. And if it were to impact it by going and not winning the game and getting left out, then, boy, you'd have a lot of people saying, well, what in the heck, man? Why even have a championship game if it's going to cost you a spot in the playoff?
Yeah, I mean, that's what you're saying. I'm old enough. I became an Alabama fan during the Ray Perkins era,
right?
Based on my age. And the SEC championship just means, I guess, more to me. I go back before BCS and all that. So I guess it just depends on who you ask, I guess. It comes down to that.
No, I love the SEC championship game. And Nick Saban used to say, he said it many times, it was one of the best venues and one of the best games that you have all season. And he said he felt like it was harder to win the SEC championship than it was to win a national title. So I'm with you. I think that the SEC championship game is special. And if Alabama, I promise you, if Alabama gets an opportunity to go play in that game, the coaches and the players are going to be excited. And what, again, you're talking about the most successful team in the history of the SEC with a chance to add another conference championship. I've said this many times. The 6 national titles that Nick Saban put on the board for Alabama, impressive, but I was just as proud of the 9 SEC titles that he won to add to that legacy. And again, Alabama with 30 SEC titles, I'd have to look if it's Tennessee or Georgia, whoever it is at second, but they're way, way, way behind as far as the number of total titles. So yeah, I'm with you. It's a big deal to win the SEC championship, and I know Alabama fans understand that, but I think there's a lot of concern about playing in the game. The players and coaches, though, I guarantee you, they don't look at it like that. They want an opportunity to win that SEC championship, get that top 4 seed in that first round bye, and they'll be ready to go in Atlanta if they get that opportunity.
Well, all right then, Gary, that's all I got. Hey, I ain't gonna hold you up, man.
Appreciate it, Curtis. Always good to hear from you, and I enjoy the back and forth with the text messages as well on Messenger. All right, let's talk to Ellis, who is up in Tennessee and won our Bama football trivia contest on Friday, courtesy of T-Town Menswear and T-Town Gallery in the University Mall. So he's got a Steve Skipper autographed print from Eddie Lacy and numbered and limited edition on the way to him. Good morning, Ellis.
Good morning there, Gary Harris.
How's it going?
All right. Oh, you doing all right this morning?
Yeah, doing pretty well. Getting ready for another week and another countdown to Saturday with a big game at Oklahoma. So it's amazing how quick this season has gone by. You and I have talked about the weather. I think the season's gone by even faster because the weather has been so nice and so warm, and it just seems like summer and you look up and, we're closing in on Thanksgiving,
And it's still like summertime outside.
Yeah, it is. It is. The weathermen just keep saying they keep saying it's going to get colder, but we'll see. Maybe it's this week. Later in the week, they're talking about some cooler temperatures, so I'll believe it when I see it. That's about all I can tell you.
Well, they're saying the same thing up here. We're fixing to get a rude awakening. So.
Yeah, I'm looking at the forecast here. We're having the rain tomorrow is what it looks like, but then by Wednesday, sunshine with highs in the low 60s and the upper 50s and lows in the low 40s and upper 30s. So that would be a little more like fall right there.
Well, that's what you want, especially football season.
It is what you want. I mean, you want a little bit of the football season to feel like football season. I mean, you just do. And I think you're like me. We're not talking about we want to be freezing now. We don't want to go out, it'd be, for the Iron Bowl, it'd be, like it was in 2000 when it was, 30-something degrees and sleeting. We don't want that. But we want, we'd like to have it, I think, maybe highs in the 60s and by the end of the game, maybe in the upper 50s. That would be nice. That would be pleasant.
Oh, that would. That would.
All right, what you got on the football side of things? I know you got something you want to talk about.
Well, I'm glad we got ahead like we did and come out and played like we should, because usually, and usually Alabama comes out and plays dull on a game like that right there, But they seemed to take care of business, and then they was able to play a lot of backup people. And very impressed. We still need to work on the penalties, though, Gary Harris.
Yeah, the penalties are still an issue. I know it's driving the coaches crazy. I do know for a fact that they're working every week diligently to try to get this penalty situation figured out. And hopefully they will. And
debate it all, everybody's thinking it started this year. Well, I think it started a year ago or maybe 2 years ago. When Saban was coaching,
Yeah, the penalty's been an issue for the last few years, and as I've told you before, and I've told the audience, I've got a theory on it. When Saban first got here, Alabama was one of the least penalized teams for several years. And I think that's where the Bama bias, when he started winning championships and Alabama got back on top, people started complaining about Alabama gets all the breaks and gets all the calls from the officials and all this and all that. That I think that every Monday, especially with the advent of social media, the SEC office was getting flooded with emails and clips and cut-ups and photos and videos of all the bad calls that Alabama had go their way. That I certainly don't think there was ever a directive. But I do think that officials became, aware of the fact that there was a lot of sentiment out there that Alabama got favorable officiating. And I just think it kind of went the other way. I think the officials, psychologically were like, we're not going to make sure that, it looks like Alabama's getting the benefit of the doubt. And it's almost like it went the other way. So they went from being one of the least penalized teams to the last few years being one of the most penalized teams. So you're right. It didn't just this year. It's been the last few years. But that's something they continue to work on. And that in big games, you've got to do better on penalties, because I think that if you look back at the Tennessee game, there were a lot of reasons they lost that game, and penalties were one of them. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, and it makes a difference. It could have not had that penalty and could have went ahead and made a touchdown or a field goal to win the ball game.
You're right.
And a little bit about basketball. I'm not worried about the basketball. You're going to have a bad game. And they had a bad game. The three-pointers were not landing at all. I mean, I couldn't understand it, but they just was not landing. So I'm not worried about it. We got an awesome coach and awesome players, and they'll get it worked out.
They will. They sure will. That's going to be a good basketball team before it's all said and done. All right, Ellis, I'm looking forward to seeing you for the Iron Bowl to get you your print, buddy, okay?
Yes, sir. Roll Tide.
All right, thank you. 10:14 here on the Gary Harris Show. Hey, listen, the YMCA of Tuscaloosa is sitting there at 2300 13th Street, just ready for you when you're ready for the Y. All you got to do is get by, and they'll show you around. You'll want to sign up, become a member. I've been a member for over 20 years. You'll love the facility. You'll love the personnel that works there, the staff, the personal trainers, those folks that teach all the fitness classes and spin classes. They got the Silver Sneaker program for seniors. It's just a terrific place and a great community of people, too. You'll make a lot of friends. You may have some people that you meet that help you with your business. It's just a network of good people as well as a terrific place to get fit. The YMCA of Tuscaloosa. The Y is ready for you, and you're ready for the Y, 2300 13th Street downtown. All right, we're going to be back with my Bama in the NFL segment. I'll point out some of the top performances, and also Kalen DeBoer, Alabama head football coach. We've got his audio from Saturday. We'll get
100% satisfaction and appointments set around your schedule. Give us a call for all your steam cleaning needs, 205-553-9460. Houston Hydro Steam. Quality work you can stand on.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The sky partly to mostly sunny today, the high 75. Clouds move in tonight, the low 62. Tomorrow, cloudy, rain becoming widespread, the high 68. And for Thursday, the sky becoming partially sunny, the high 66. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 68 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Find Tide on Twitter at Tide109 to keep up with show announcements, guests, and our reporters in the field.
All right, 10:18. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show. And Bama in the NFL is something that I track every week and love keeping up with all the guys. And I can't mention all of them. I do post an entire rundown of the guys on my WVUA 23 Gary Harris Facebook page. If you'd like to go follow me there, I list them, every one, at least the ones that I, can. Maybe I missed some, but some of the top performers yesterday, Tua Tagovailoa, 28 of 36 for 288 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, as the Dolphins got a win over the Raiders. Najee Harris, 18 rushes, 63 yards, 4 catches for 34 yards, and the Steelers win over the Ravens. In that same game, Derrick Henry, 13 rushes, 65 yards, and a touchdown. Unfortunately, just the 13 carries, which I can't figure that out. He did lose a fumble for the first time in over 2 years in that game. But just 13 carries, that's ridiculous. So the Ravens lost to the Steelers. Let's see here. In that same game, Marlon Humphrey had 3 tackles, a tackle for a loss, a pass deflection, and an interception. Jerry Jeudy for the Browns had 6 catches, 142 yards, and a touchdown, his best game of the year. Browns lost to the Saints, but a big game for Jerry. Jeudy, Jahmyr Gibbs every week, man. 11 rushes, 69 yards, a touchdown, 1 catch for 54 yards. One of the most versatile players in the league. Jameson Williams in that same game for the Lions, 4 catches, 124 yards, a touchdown, 1 rush for 2 yards, as the Lions blew out the Jags in that matchup. Mac Jones started the last 2 weeks for the Jags, has struggled. Yesterday, 17 of 29, 138 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception, sacked once, 2 rushes for 7 yards. Amari Cooper coming back from a wrist injury for the Bills, 2 big catches for 55 yards as they knocked off the Chiefs and gave Kansas City its first loss. Quentin Williams in a loss for the Jets, 7 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, a sack, and 3 quarterback hurries. Big game for him. Josh Jacobs, although the Jets lost to the Colts. Josh Jacobs for the Packers, 18 carries, 76 yards, a touchdown, 4 catches for 58 yards. Packers beat the Bears. Xavier McKinney having one of the best years for any safety in the league. Had 9 tackles for the Packers in that win over the Bears. And back on Thursday night, Jalen Hurts had a big game, 14 of 20, 202 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 7 rushes, 56 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And tonight, it's the Cowboys and the Texans with more Alabama guys going in Monday Night Football. Since we don't have any phone calls right now, let's go ahead and get to Kalen DeBoer from Saturday Chase. And he met with the media following the game and talked about the win over Mercer and looked ahead to the rest of the season. Here's Alabama head coach Kalen DeBoer on Saturday afternoon.
Begin with Coach DeBoer's opening statement, and we'll take questions. Leave your hands up in the air, and we'll try to get to everyone. Coach, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, you bet. Good to get it when
and get a lot of guys out there on the field. They all put in a lot of work, and there's that little window that you try to hit where you get the ones that work and you get the score where you need it to be, and for the guys to play a quarter and a half essentially and get a lot of guys on the football field, it was fun to see them get out there and play and work on their execution. So like that we got 3 more takeaways. I think there's a mindset about our defense and 3 of the first 4 possessions to do that. Just really like where we're at. We're hunting the ball and offensively, putting the drives there. I know we're at the end of the first half, maybe, had a field goal there. We'd love to score in the red zone, get a touchdown. But for the most part, again, taking care of the football, no turnovers, and, getting the takeaways. And, that's where it all starts. And so guys worked hard all week long. Thought they really had a good demeanor about them, working on themselves individually, wanting to build on what we did a week ago. And, going to the tail end of the season here, I think relatively, healthy as far as who played today and no one getting seriously dinged up, for next week.
Thanks, Coach. We'll start in the far right with Charlie.
Yeah, hey, Coach. Robbie scored his first touchdown of the season today. Just what do you think of that play, and what does he mean to your offense?
Yeah, he's just kind of a Swiss Army knife for us out there, especially, in the blocking piece. And, for him to get down the field, and they put a lot of guys up towards the line of scrimmage. That's just a part of what they do, and they've been very successful with it. Number one, at the FCS level in rush defense, but some play actions there that we got behind him on, and for Robbie to haul one in was really exciting for our guys, exciting for him. I love to see it. So he got a chance as a senior to talk to the team last night, and you can just tell the love our team has for him, how much they appreciate the effort he brings each and every day, not just each and every week, but he's got a mindset, a toughness about him, that just exudes what Alabama football is all about.
Left side, front row today.
Yeah, you had a chance to get a lot of work for your quarterbacks in today. What did you think of some of the guys who came in after Jalen and what they did?
Yeah, Ty with some scrambles, the long one kind of along our sideline. I think people who really know and have watched Ty, probably all of you can see that he's got that ability, can do things with his feet. Everyone gets tied into Jalen and his running ability, but Ty's tough to handle it when it comes to running the football too. And so escaping, making some plays, the third down, throwing it deep, or fourth down, throwing it deep, that was if it's picked off, it's picked off, and so smart just to give him a chance and, find a way to make a play. So, and I thought Dylan and Austin coming in and moving the chains, Dylan on a fourth down, was it fourth down, right? Fourth down conversion. Austin coming in, laying a ball in there along the left sideline for the touchdown. There's that, again, fine window of trying to let these guys run the offense and get that experience and get an opportunity to do what they work on each and every day. So I was proud of the way they just handled everything, from the execution to just even the procedural things where, making sure guys are lined up before we motion, all of that stuff. So, I thought it was a good day for all of them as a whole.
Keep it on the left side of Tony. On your left, Tony.
How big was it to get a non-offensive touchdown? And just, is that one of those things that you guys can kind of build on? Is it almost like you break the seal with those?
Yeah, those are exciting. I mean, the guys, talk about it, and, when they come up short and they think they had a chance to score, they always hear about, you should have kept it along this sideline or cut back. And, for us to get him in the end zone, with that long return, it was, something that's exciting for the whole team because they have gotten the takeaways. We just hadn't ended up with one in the end zone like that. So I love the mindset, again, going back to what the defense is doing. They're attacking. They're, 3 and out is, what they're shooting for. But right now, the position they're putting our offense in, getting points on the board now, too, it's really good.
Jump back over to the right side of Colin.
Hey, Galen. Kind of on that same vein, why did you want to see, I guess, the defense play a couple more extra, or the first team defense play a couple more extra drives than the second team offense, heading into the fourth quarter, I guess?
Yeah, well, I think, first of all, there's a lot of guys rotating in on defense to begin with. And so, I mean, there's a lot of young guys we already have on the football field with the ones. And then, you know, there's less experience even when you put the twos out there. And a lot of that 1 and 2 is in rotation up front in the secondary. And then, you know, the score isn't completely, you know, lopsided. And when you start putting your next guys in with the offense, you know, you want to be careful just to make sure the game can stay and nothing crazy happens. But I know that none of you felt like it was in jeopardy. But, you know, those are just things that you want to be careful of. Make sure you can get through the quarter and then get into the fourth. But, again, we play a lot of guys already, you know, before we even get to substituting, you know, they're in the latter part of the game.
Second row to the right, Katie.
You hit on this a little bit in your opening, but what did you see from the team this week in their focus and intensity, making sure they didn't have a mental letdown in a game like today?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, we've really, as we get to the latter half of the season, really honed in on, you know, more and more leaders stepping up, take care of yourself, you know, own what you do and take care of that, and then bring someone else with you. And the intensity in practice, it's not like guys are flying off the walls and things like that, but there's a focus that they bring, and there's just a business-like approach where they know that they got to do this, they got to eat right, sleep right, do all those things off the field, take care of the business there, and you know, it leads to the success that they had. But when they do those things right, you know, and you invest, that's, you know, invest in improving yourself and improving our team, and that's what I thought they did. And you know, there's downstairs, I know some of the upperclassmen, you know, talking about how much they appreciate the young guys and how happy we were that some of those guys got a chance to go out there. You know, they're giving scout team looks all week long, all season long, and you know, for them to get out there and have a little success and enjoy the moment was great, and the whole team's happy for them.
Let's go to Steven on the back left.
Coach, he doesn't have that C on his chest, but Jihad Campbell's game has just jumped these last few weeks. What's led to that and the intensity he brings to that defense?
What was that? What?
To the intensity he brings to that defense, Campbell.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, you know, again, that's a great example of, you know, you don't have to have the C to be a leader. And Jihad is exactly that. He's been a leader for us ever since I can remember. I've counted on him. I go to him, you know, expecting big things, expecting that leadership. You know, he can run. It starts there. But I think just the more and more he just plays ball, executes the plays, you know, understands what our defense is and how it matches up against what he's seeing, trusting the others around him, not trying to do too much and just attacking. You know, he's feeling it, and there's, you know, confidence that he has that, you know, you can see coming out in the playmaking ability. And, you know, that's not just him, but a lot of guys. But it starts with, you know, some of those guys that are making the plays consistently, and Jihad's one of them.
We have 2 questions left, starting with Ariel on the back right.
Coach, through 9 games so far this season, how have you really seen the offensive line grow together, and kind of going back to what Katie said, just have that attention to detail and not lack of focus?
Yeah, you know, there's going to be plays. You know, we didn't have any sacks today. I know we got hit a couple times or had a little pressure, but you know, I think there's things. You know, last week was a huge step running the football and just moving people, and you know, there's little adjustments, little tweaks. We, you know, played Gino a lot at right guard, just to give Jaden. Jaden could have been out there and played for us. But, you know, it's good to get Gino out there, and we got to continue to build that depth. And I think they're more in sync. You really don't see any busts, and it's been going on for many weeks now. You don't see busts. They've been really consistent, and you know, the execution's been good, and they're just trying to make the execution better and better and better each and every week, both in the pass protection and the run game.
We'll finish up on standing up on the back right. Always standing up back there. Yeah.
Just what has impressed you the most about Ryan Williams' freshman season that he's having right now?
Probably just how he handles it all. I mean, he's a player, you know, that, you know, comes to work every day. Nothing goes to his head. He's about the team. He really is. And, you know, when we call up on him, or when we need him to make a play, he's ready, and he's just consistent each and every day. You know, just a joy to be around, got a smile on his face. I've been challenging him to be a leader, because obviously we're looking to him as a guy that's one of our playmakers, and the respect the whole team has been there really since day one because of how hard he does work, and then the production as well. So it's just, I think, how he handles everything. It's just, there's a maturity about him that's well beyond his years. I think we know how old he is, right? So, it's really cool, and I'm proud of him, and I'm proud of the way that the guys just have really, rallied around him at times. But I'm proud of the way he just, puts the team first always.
Thank you, Coach.
Yeah, thank you. Roll Tide.
For the community to enjoy. There are also other great sponsorship opportunities. You can learn more at NorthportBunnyTrail.com. That's NorthportBunnyTrail.com.
Serving part-time in the Army National Guard has led to a lot of firsts for me. It paid for me to be the first person in my family to go to school. That education got me to the first day at my dream job, which I can still hold while I serve part-time. That job and the home loan benefits I got from the Army National Guard helped me buy my first house.
If it makes sense for your business,
go to townsquarelocal.com for a free demo of the Townsquare Business Management Platform. Visit townsquarelocal.com. That's townsquarelocal.com.
You see him on WVUA 23 covering sports and on Tider Insider TV on Tuesday nights. Don't miss a minute of the Gary Harris Show. Weekdays from 9 to 11 on Tide 100.9.
All right, 10:34. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show. It's time for my friend Casey Smith on golf. Talk about all things golf and always work in some other sports as well. Good morning, Casey. How's it going?
Hey, thanks, Gary. Everything is going great. I hope you had a great weekend.
Awesome. Thanks. We talked about the fall swing, and you talked about how important it is. And, of course, we focused a lot on the Bama guys. But I tell you, this is the PGA Tour, and we see these stories all the time, particularly in some of these type events. Rafael Campos, who needed it, to say the least. And I hate to say kind of came out of nowhere, but he came out of nowhere. And he didn't just win down in Bermuda, but he won by 3 shots in the Butterfield Bermuda Championship. Just if you would speak to what he was able to accomplish after struggling as bad as he'd been struggling and what this win means for him.
Yeah, huge congrats to Campos. It's his first tour win. He became a parent for the first time. They have one kid on Monday, and knowing that he only potentially had a couple of events left to secure a job for next year, he went out, instead of being there with his family, went down to Bermuda and played. Yep. And he missed 13 of 14 cuts coming in to go in and win by 3. He joined Chichi Rodriguez as the only other tour winner from Puerto Rico, and it's his 14th season, so it took him all that time to grind to get a win. And pretty cool that he comes after having a child. He's now, I was watching after the round some of the coverage. He had no clue that he was in the Century. He thought he was in Augusta and sort of asked in real time. He was calling his wife, and he said, "I think I'm going to have an off month for the first time." And someone, they said, well, his manager or someone said something about the Century, which is the winning event, Tournament of Champions. He couldn't believe it. Realized then he was getting in Augusta. So a really big turnaround for him when he definitely needed it the most. And it makes sense of why we saw that range of emotions, some crying, and he locked up his job for 2 years. And really down the stretch, if you watched any of it, he was leading by 3 and had a 2-footer with like 3 holes left, and he made the worst putting stroke I've seen maybe all year. And, I mean, almost missed it. And he horseshoes the ball out, and now he's got 2 more feet, and you could just tell just straight nerves. But maybe it sort of settled him to go, okay, I got to get my act back together and refocus. And he did, and he went on to win by 3.
Yeah, this is a great story. And again, people at home are listening, who's Rafael Campos? But this is the other side of the PGA Tour. And you and I have discussed this. You see the stars, you see the majors, casual golf fans tune in for the big events, the Ryder Cups and the President's Cups and major championships and top tour events. But these kind of events go under the radar. But what a story. to be a grinder like this guy's been for this many years and then make a huge decision to not be there for the birth of your first child. So because you're trying to make a living, and then you win the event, which then sets up your family in a way that you could have never been set up had you skipped this event. It's a remarkable story, really, Casey.
Oh, it is a remarkable story. I think he may have made the birth of his daughter, but it was like just in and out.
But Hamido had to leave. Yeah. He couldn't have been there long. Yeah.
No, he was just in and out, and you know, it also tells you a lot about self-belief. If you miss 13 out of 14 cuts, you know, golfers always think they're one swing away from flipping it around and finding that thing. To miss 13 to 14 cuts, oof, that is so demoralizing. And flying all over the country to play 2 days and go back, and you know that, and when his wife's pregnant. You know, that's just not, I mean, anyone's had a kid, been there, that's not an easy situation to be in. And I'm sure when you're like missing cuts, he's probably going, all right, it might be time for you to get a regular job. But he kept betting on himself. So, yeah, I mean, it's good. You know, one of those things that a lot of times you get rewarded when you know, fully send it.
Going into the weekend, it looked like it might be an opportunity for a Bama guy to have this type of turnaround. Robbie Shelton was in really good shape. But as we've seen from him, he's just had a hard time putting 4 rounds together. He's still got a T17, so he's still got a top 20 finish. But he was in position there going to Saturday to win this thing. And then after great rounds on Thursday and Friday, but we know how it is. 2 rounds on the PGA Tour does not a tournament make, and he just couldn't get anything going on the weekend, Casey.
Yeah, I mean, he shot even par in round 4, and he was turned 4 under. You know, I was like, here we go. He's got a really chance. He birdied 1, 3, 6, 9, cooking. Birdied 10 to get to 5 under. And then he went double bogey, par, bogey, bogey, par, bogey. He shot 39, 9. Ouch. Timing could not have been worse. He moves to 149. He moved up inside that conditional 150 on the PGA Tour FedEx Cup ball. But, you know, it's still... He could have been inside that top 125 pretty easily, I think, had he had, you know, just kept finishing. He moved all the way up inside the top 5. And so, you know, you hate to see that when it's really needed the most. And I also found out a little bit about Bud Cauley and his status.
Okay.
Going into this last week. So he's on that medical, and he got, there's a whole formula to it. Sometimes you only get, you know, 5, 7, sometimes you get 14 events. He has got 27 on his medical. He's played 16. He earned 222 FedEx Cup points, and he has 11 remaining. He was a little hurt is why he's not playing the last couple of events, just a light something in his chest. And then, but he's playing this week, and he needs 15.289 for conditional, but he will get 10 more events after this one to still earn that. So he could earn full status with 168 points in 11 events to just playing a little better than he's played, not much, and he would earn full status. So he's got another path to get there. Hopefully his game was trending, and hopefully he plays good at Sea Island, because it's obviously a familiar place and good opportunity to go ahead and lock that in.
Go Bud. Yeah, you mentioned this last week, Casey, but with this being the final event before, you know, Thanksgiving next week, and it with being at Sea Island, I would expect this would be a pretty good field. A lot of guys live in that area. And in addition to Bud, what's the Bama contingent look like for this event?
You should have, you know, the final field will come out today, but it should be a very, very, it was one of the biggest, most attended pre-qualifiers and Monday qualifiers. They play 2 courses to start to fit in more guys and players. They all like it there. It's obviously very, very nice. And you'll see, obviously, Patton Gazar, who we follow, who lives there. I'll be interested to see where Nick Dunlap winds up, if he plays or not. Lee Hodges will be in the field, Davis Riley in the field, Robbie in the field, Bud in the field. Wilson, Burr, and Trey, the only way they could get a card really is if they win. They'll both be in the field. So, yeah, it's the last run for everyone. And and there's a lot of things to watch based on where people finish, and Bud Cauley can get his card without having to use the medical statuses as well. If he just played well, Robbie Shelton needs to have a really, really good week, and the rest of them are safe, so that's good. And you can see all it takes. Look at Rafael Campos. Look at Pat Kazire, who was having a rough year, then he wins. So,
right.
Trey did that a couple of years ago. It's there and a familiar course. And some friends that were there yesterday, actually playing there yesterday, said the golf course was in absolute perfect shape. It's been beautiful down there lately, so should be great. Man, if you're in the area, there's not going to be a better event to watch. It's not very heavily attended, and you can watch golf right up on the ropes.
All right, Casey, we touched on this a little last week, but follow up for you with Donald Trump winning the presidency. I mean, most people are focused on the political side of that, obviously, but it's big news for golf. He is a golfer. He loves the game. He's friends with a lot of players on both the LIV and PGA Tours. And it appears that him winning the presidency could also speed up the timetable for the PGA Tour and LIV coming to some type of resolution. It appears the players now are all ready to get this deal done where they can start back playing together and at least more than they are and not have a complete separation of the two tours. Where do we stand?
Yeah, I think that we're definitely getting closer. Donald Trump played golf with Jay Monahan, PGA Tour Commissioner, on Thursday down in West Palm Beach. And then on Saturday, he sat by Yasser over the PIF. He and Elon Musk sat by him at the UFC fight. I know that there's been some intentionality from him about getting a deal done or helping to be there to get this deal done. I think everyone knows and thinks the deal's going to get done. It's just how they're going to shape the deal. You enter the guy who is the art of the deal with really talented people around him who also were wanting to encourage getting it done. All the players are definitely ready. I mean, Rory, wins this week on the DP World Tour, winning his sixth DP World Tour title, tying Seve for the most. And the first thing he's talking about is, getting those tours together. He was encouraging those guys to get together. So when you have players coming from all over the place on both sides wanting to get it done, I think everyone knows it's going to be for the best. Golf's really on a big boom right now everywhere. Getting this little last piece together, which really sent some shockwaves through the sport. And I don't think you're going to see it I think there's going to be one tour and how they shape that, but there will still be, I would assume, some functions of LIV and some functions of the PGA Tour, because LIV's growing. I mean, I was just reading some more about their growth and how they're growing in Asia and the development tours that are doing well. So it's just really, I think, probably strength in golf. It's how they bring it back together is going to be the interesting thing to watch.
Yeah, it is going to be an interesting thing to watch. And 2025 is going to be a very, very interesting year for the game of professional golf. I can't wait for it to see how this plays out. And obviously, if that works out where they play more events together, even if it's not a full-fledged resolution, that would be neat. Also, before we mention Bama basketball real quick, you and I have talked about this before. I guess there's no thought process to moving the PGA Championship back. It's going to remain in May, which I think you and I both agree has not worked out as well as the August date, to be quite honest.
I hope that they go back and reevaluate that. I think that once I was told once this agreement can happen, they're going to have to evaluate all calendars. They're going to play more world events if this goes on and gets done, and so that will change the calendar around a little bit. And it needs to. This major season's too jam packed. They fit in the Olympics now. You have Ryder Cups every other year. There's a lot on the golf calendar. And so they're going to really have to reevaluate that. They need to move and spread that season out. The major season happens in too big of a flash. Everyone thinks that. But I think next year is the first year we really get onto a full-scale calendar year. So it should be a full calendar year from start to finish without any additions and wrinkles. And I would also want to mention this. Nelly, the best season in American golf happened, in 2000 with Tiger Woods winning 9 times and 20 starts. But in this year, Scotty Scheffler has won 7 times on PGA Tour, and Nelly Korda just won 7 for the 7th time on the LPGA Tour. I watched a little bit of that. Her and Charlie Hull were going at it. She made 5 birdies in a row. Nelly did on the back. Young career, giving her 15 wins, but 7 this year, and she started the year on the IR due to her back. I think she's probably got the best golf swing, male or female, on earth. So American golf's in a good spot with good young stars, and I'm with you. We should have a really big year in 25.
All right, quick thought on Alabama basketball. We know it's a marathon, not a sprint, and this team you hope is built for March. Having said that, you are the number 2 team in the country, and there's a lot of expectations, and the team has not started out the way Bama fans would have hoped. The blowout over UNC Asheville, but then a single-digit win over Arkansas State at home, a single-digit win over McNeese State at home, and then got beat, just flat out got beat Friday night and in West Lafayette against Purdue. Now, Purdue's a good team, good program, great atmosphere. I get that. But still, any concerns for Alabama basketball?
I think they're going to be – this is the time to work out the kinks, who plays well together, who gels well together. Purdue has won 21 consecutive home games and 25 straight in November, and they have not lost a regular season non-conference game since December 22. And, Alabama basketball and Purdue both took the same amount of shots. Alabama made 3 less. We took a lot more threes and made a lot less of threes. But when you look at box scores minus slight turnover differential, I just think it probably, we beat them at the free throw line. We beat them in percentages. We beat them on the boards. I just think it's probably tough to play on the road there. You got a team, you're trying to figure out how to work everyone together. That game will help us down the stretch and help us in the SEC because the SEC is loaded this year. Still think everyone sees, you heard what Will Wade said. Will Wade said that this is the most talented team he's seen in the SEC in years. So I think they just got to get the kinks worked out, and probably knew winning at Purdue was going to be an uphill battle. When you look at the box score, it could have gone either way, really. When you look at it that way, but we don't really, fare as well in low-scoring games. We need to get it in that 90s run, especially with this talent. We'll win more. We'll win all the rest of the games if we can score 90-something a game, I think. Just can't be in that 70 number and probably win, given as many threes as we take.
Yeah, the way they play, they got to get points per game up, that's for sure. All right, thank you, Casey. Appreciate it, man.
Thanks, Gary. Have a good one.
All right, 10:51, and we're going to take our final break and come back and wrap up the show. Before we do, though, I do want to mention to you that lunch is right around the corner, and how about checking out Billy's Sports Grill in downtown, beautiful, historic Northport, Alabama. Right there on Main Avenue, and I tell you what, a lot of people love sitting outside when the weather's like this. They wrap that patio up for lunch. It's a great way to enjoy a terrific meal and get outside and breathe the fresh air. And it's another pretty day, so take advantage. Billy's opens for lunch here in just a few minutes at 11 a.m. All right, we'll be back to wrap it up. We got time to squeeze in a phone call if you want to give us a ring on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline 205-342-9904. We'll be right back.
Coming up on The Game with Ryan Fowler.
Coming up on the Monday edition of The Game, we'll talk to Drew DeArmond, we'll talk to Martin Houston, we'll talk to Barrett Sallee. We're going to do the good, the bad, and the ugly. Hopefully there's a lot of good. The good is sponsored by Daniel Moore. We'll start taking your phone calls at 2 right here on The Game on Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
The longest running sports program in
Unless I'll win for you. Call 800-8000 or visit mezwins.com. I've got this.
No representation is made that the quality of legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers.
365, 24/7. You'll find road and utility crews, tow truck, law enforcement, and first responders working along Alabama's roadways.
We're making improvements and helping our communities stay connected.
We're working hard to make sure you're safe on the road. Now we need your help to make sure we're safe too.
Alabama's Move Over law requires you to move over a lane when you see flashing lights on the road.
Covered. Open enrollment ends December 7th. Visit Medicare.gov or call 1-800-MEDICARE.
Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Are you receiving unemployment? Your benefits could be at risk. Here's how you can protect yourself and your benefits. Never respond to mail notifying you of a false claim in your name. Never answer a text message asking you to verify your account. And only respond to official Alabama Department of Labor's social media pages. Report fraud at labor.alabama.gov/fraud.
With 100 new models in stock and over 60 pre-owned vehicles. Remember, we'll buy your car even if you don't do business with us. 3200 Skyland Boulevard, East Tuscaloosa. Online at mercedesoftuscaloosa.com.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The sky partly to mostly sunny today, the high 75. Clouds move in tonight, the low 62. Tomorrow, cloudy, rain becoming widespread, the high 68. And for Thursday, the sky becoming partially sunny, the high 66. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3320 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 72 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Alabama Crimson Tide lives right here.
Down to the pylon. Touchdown, Alabama.
On Tide 100.9.
Well, time flies when you're having fun. I said we'd have time for phone call. I've kind of misspoke. It's already time to wrap it up. But good show today. Appreciate you joining us, Chase. Appreciate your great work. And thanks to Rodney Orr and Casey Smith. Tomorrow, of course, the Tuesday edition, I'll be back at 9 a.m. A reminder to catch me on TV tonight with your local sports on WVUA 23. And we are back on all the major providers, both cable and satellite. So you can catch us now if you weren't able to watch us for a while. We are back on direct. We're back on Dish. We're back on the cable system. So good to be back there on TV. So catch me tonight on your local sports. And as I said, back here tomorrow with the Tuesday edition of the Gary Harris Show. I want to thank Alabama Credit Union for bringing you the first hour. I want to thank Pinnacle Park at North River Townhomes for their great sponsorship of the hotline. And go to Pinnacle Park NR to see this beautiful PinnacleParkNR.com to see this beautiful gated townhome community near Lake Tuscaloosa and get more information. All right, that's going to do it for the show. T-Town Sports Daily is coming up next at 11 a.m. Have a great day, everybody, and I'll talk to you again in the morning at 9 a.m.